This is the story of a family that decided to live differently, immersed in nature. Well, yes, I know some people might turn up their noses, but they don't care about having the latest model of cell phone. The simplicity of a flower and the company of the little donkey Timmy are enough for them. But this healthy lifestyle choice of theirs didn't please the city's cold bureaucrats who think it's impossible to live well without bombardillo crocodilo. And they decided to take the children away from that natural paradise. I, as a journalist with no intention of seeking attention, want to report this purely anecdotal and sensationalist story in the most objective way possible, so that you can get a clear idea and between commercials decide whether to be outraged as I was. Don't change the channel. First of all, let's think about the children. Are they healthy? Let's ask some experts. And who could know better than they do themselves? Are you happy?
Yes.
Oh, and you like being in nature, right?
Yes.
Are you aware of the construction and health risks where you're staying, as well as the psychological effects of the choices your parents are making for you?
Donkey's name, Timmy.
Timmy is really a cute name. How did you meet the family in the woods?
They came to the emergency room for mushroom poisoning.
A perfectly normal poisoning? It can happen to anyone.
Of course, in their case though, keep in mind that the whole family was also very isolated and we had to use a helicopter.
Is that why you wanted to report them to the police?
I didn't report them. We doctors are required to notify the police if there's even just a suspicion of a crime or risk to minors.
So for you, a perfectly normal case of mushroom poisoning in a family with 2 children isolated from the world means that the minors are at risk?
It could just be an unfortunate incident and the children might not be in any further danger, but I have a duty to report it for the necessary checks.
A duty on behalf of whom?
On behalf of the penal code.
Will you really do that just to avoid criminal prosecution, or is it because you don't accept an alternative lifestyle in the middle of nature? That's how overnight a judge decided that the children of the family in the woods would be painfully taken from their parents and placed in a cold orphanage. You're the judge who traumatized happy kids just because you can't accept them living in nature, right?
If you're referring to the family in the woods, I handled it.
Can you tell us what you did to poor little donkey Timmy?
I do my job based on the evidence I receive from social services.
Do you know that some people in social services lie?
Parents themselves confirm what is said.
Couldn't he just mind his own business and pretend nothing happened this time?
I can't just act like nothing's wrong when they show me the documents, and if we hadn't handled it and the house collapsed on the children, who would be responsible?
But let's not argue about what ifs and buts. Let's hear from someone who knows the facts. Did you hear about the family in the woods?
Oh yes, the ones whose children were taken away.
Exactly. Do you think it was right to take their children just because they live in nature?
Oh God, taking their children away seems a bit much to me.
You think it's too much, right?
It seems too much to me just because they like being in nature.
Just because they're out in nature, huh?
Aren't they free to live how they want?
Exactly. So you think it's a scandal?
Taking children away like that is a scandal.
And nobody touches the Roma.
Exactly. What about the Roma then?
No one seems to care about Roma children.
I see double standards here.
Look, you've said it all. Are you the so-called social services?
Yes, that's us.
I have just one question. Why do you hate people who have decided to live out in nature so much?
We don't hate anyone. Our job is to make sure that minors grow up in a safe environment.
The TV reports with their background music make it seem like everyone is happy. Isn't that enough for you?
We went to check the safety of the house where they live and it's not really up to standard.
What is it? If someone doesn't have a golden bathroom, then you take their children away?
No, it's the whole place that's not safe, especially for minors.
And because they don't have the latest Beyblade model?
No running water, electricity or window frames, the dampness causes lung diseases and the unstable building is risky in earthquakes. Yes, the bathroom is outside, just a bucket.
My grandfather grew up in a well and he was very happy.
But it's 2025 and we have different safety standards, especially when it comes to minors.
And who decides if a house is safe by your standards?
The Consolidated Building Act, a national law.
Let's hear what a representative of the state who has no reason to lie has to say.
I've never heard of things called laws. At my house, if someone comes to take my kids away just because they don't like me, I tell them to get lost. Oh!
But they don't take the Roma's kids away.
Look, I didn't want to talk about the Roma, but since you're asking me, I think the judges hate everyone who isn't Roma. They hate me, they hate you, they hate little donkey Timmy. So that's it.
So you took their kids away just because the house was about to collapse on their heads?
Of course not. First, we offered to go to their home to help them fix some structural and sanitary issues.
Anyway, you invited yourselves over. That's a clear abuse of power.
For months, everything went smoothly with full cooperation.
Until suddenly they stopped letting us in.
Of course, it's their house.
They refuse to have their children undergo blood tests and specialist checkups.
They have their own principles.
They asked for 50,000 euros to have them take the blood tests.
They just had to wait for Black Friday.
Then the children don't go to school and stay at home.
Since they don't attend school as society expects, you took their children away.
No, homeschooling is legal in Italy. You just have to meet some minimum learning requirements. But the parents didn't even submit the required documentation.
So, just because they didn't have all the proper documentation, you took their children away?
No.
Did you know they separated the family in the woods and took the children just for not sending them to school?
Really?
I swear to you. And also because they love nature, what do you think about that?
It seems a bit drastic, especially if they're also learning at home.
But they teach them those things surrounded by nature. And they also teach them respect for animals.
I think it's a nice thing.
Exactly. But the state decided it's not okay because they don't go to regular school.
Well, maybe it's because they want to teach what they want. As soon as a family has the courage to think freely, they don't like it.
Look, you said it all. It's an unbelievable situation. And neutral party confirms it for us, the lawyer representing the family.
I'm no longer the family's lawyer.
What do you mean you're not the family's lawyer anymore?
I resigned.
Did you resign because they pressured you?
No, I chose to leave the case myself. The family is not cooperative. I wish you all the best and goodbye.
You are saying that when you found out the children weren't going to school, you got furious.
No, and it's not about the school. The children, questioned several times to see how they were doing, always needed their mother to understand Italian. This means their interactions with the outside world are quite limited.
It seems to me that once a week they go shopping and play with the neighbors. That's a lot more social life than I could handle.
You're an adult. Limiting minors' interaction with society this much risks making them fragile, not very independent and dependent on their family. They miss the chance to learn how to handle emotions, conflicts, or the outside world, which could affect them for life.
If you don't mind, that's your opinion.
That's what the scientific literature says.
The mother, a shaman, says the opposite, but the state is responsible for minors, and so you took her children away.
And so the judge decided that, given the severe neglect of the home, the lack of hygiene, education, and socialization, and the parents' sudden refusal to accept help to comply with current Italian safety regulations, by virtue of Article 30 of the Constitution, which protects the fundamental rights of minors, if the parents are believed incapable of doing so, it would be better for the children to temporarily live in a safe group home where the parents are still free to see them while waiting for their current home to be brought up to safety standards.
I understand perfectly. Now I have the whole picture of the situation. So, to sum up, a family's children were taken away without warning after just a year of discussions only because this judge, whose name and address I'll share with you, doesn't accept that they can live surrounded by nature. She prefers that the children use TikTok, buy snacks filled with poison, and go to school to be indoctrinated according to her political views. And for some unknown reason, she despises poor little donkey Timmy. I might be a bit old-fashioned, but I think everyone should be free to live as they see fit and shouldn't meddle in other people's business just because there's a suspicion of something dangerous. You can live perfectly well even outside of society, away from bills, mainstream science, and taxes. Some people are content with just a small fire, a few animals, an organic garden, and a rescue helicopter to pick them up from the middle of nowhere to save their lives. And what if by chance one day their house were to collapse on their head? Or what if the forest catches fire because of unprotected heat sources, or a lung disease develops due to humidity and the burning of 100% natural fireplaces, or a social or psychological learning disorder develops? Well, I'd like to remind you that my grandfather grew up in a well and he was very happy. See you next week with another true scandalous news story. We're committed to keeping you informed. Commercial break.